And one of the things that I realize is common within many people right now, that there are a lot of people who are at their breaking point. That's right. They're at a breaking point. They're going through something that's significant, some kind of challenge. Or maybe they have a business they've been trying to get off the ground, or a business they're trying to get to the next level, and things have been difficult. They haven't seen the results that they wanted, and so they're at their breaking point. They're considering walking away. They're considering giving up. Or they're a person who over the years, they had some unforeseen circumstances, some things have happened, and they've accumulated a great amount of debt. And every part of them wants to get out of debt, but as they look at the amount of debt that they have, as they look at the situation, they're starting to lose faith, and they're at the breaking point, and they're starting and thinking about giving up. Or there's somebody who's had this goal, this dream, something that they've wanted to do. They've been meaning to do this thing for a while. They've been putting it off. They've had a lot of conversations about it. They've done a lot of research. But unfortunately, they just haven't acted. And because they haven't acted, they're starting to talk themselves out of it because of the fact that now they think possibly it's too late, because of the fact that maybe perhaps they don't think that they're qualified, or because of the fact that maybe perhaps they don't think that they have the right qualifications. And so once again, they're at the breaking point where they're thinking about giving up, where they're thinking about going the other way. Or maybe you're the person that's listening to me right now, and you've been in this relationship, in this marriage, and this person that you once used to love sharing time with, this person that used to make you laugh, this person that all the little silly things that they used to say or do, you used to think they were so cute, but now these things are starting to get on your nerves. Now it feels like they're a stranger. Now you both are walking in the house and you're not even saying anything, and you are literally at the breaking point. You're wondering if this thing's going to work. Or maybe you're going through some kind of health issue, health problem right now. And you didn't think in a million years that you would have to be dealing with this. You didn't think you'd be getting this diagnosis. You didn't think that this accident would happen. You didn't think that you'd be diagnosed with this disease. You didn't think in a million years. And so now you're feeling demoralized. You're at the breaking point. And so what I want to remind you tonight, and here's what I want to say to you, is when you find yourself in those situations, you got to bend, but not break. That's right. You got to bend, but not break. I want you to write that down. Bend, but not break. You see, when you bend, what you do is you're willing to get uncomfortable. When you bend, what you do is you're willing to do whatever it takes in the moment. When you bend, you're willing to literally put yourself in a position where you're not quite sure how things are going to work out, but you've resolved within yourself that you're not going to give up. You've resolved within yourself that it's not over for you. You've resolved within yourself that this too shall pass. You've resolved within yourself that better days are before you and not behind you. And so you say to yourself that I'm not going to break. Yeah, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to walk away from this relationship. I'm not going to walk away from my goals and my dreams. I'm not going to stop trying to get out of debt. I'm not going to stop working my business. No, I've decided that I'm going to bend and not break. And so that term, bend, not break, has become popular from a woman who actually has a book. Her name is Ping Fu, and the title of her book is Bend, Not Break. And if you learn anything about Ping Fu's life, she grew up in China, and at the age of 8, she was stripped away from the hands of her family. And after being stripped away, she found herself being a child soldier. She was fighting all type of hunger and poverty. And if you looked at her life, you would never believe that this woman would eventually come here to the United States, become a CEO of a wonderful company, and eventually sell that company for several $1 million. And so her entire life is based off of the premise of bend and not break. And while she was being interviewed, and the reason why she wrote this book, she was talking about where she got this term from. And she said before she was stripped away from her father's hands, that one of the things that he told her is almost as if he knew that her life was going to get difficult. It's almost as if he knew that she was going to have to be dealing with hunger and poverty. It's almost as if she knew that she was going to be stripped away. It's almost as if he knew that she was going to find herself in situations where she was raped. It's almost as if he knew all the things that were going to take place. And so here's what he said to her. He said, honey, one of the trees that we have here in China is the bamboo tree. And the bamboo tree is one of the fastest growing trees on the planet. And even though the bamboo tree is not wide in diameter like an oak tree, and even though when you look at a bamboo tree, you wouldn't think that it's the most powerful tree that there is. But something amazing about this bamboo tree, you see, honey, when we experience typhoons and we go through these really, really terrible, terrible tropical storms, and sometimes when these winds are going as much as 100 miles per hour, and the winds are blowing from the east, and they're blowing from the west, and they're blowing from the north, and they're blowing from the south, even though these winds that are going 100 plus miles per hour have the ability to break an oak tree, powerful, strong, massive oak trees, literally split in half, powerful, massive oak trees fall to the ground, something special about the bamboo tree, that when these winds begin to blow, that the bamboo tree, it will bend. And sometimes it will bend all the way close to the ground, where it'll be less than an inch off the ground. But somehow, some way, once the wind stops blowing, somehow, some way, once the water starts coming down, tarantula style, somehow, some way, once the storm passes, the bamboo tree finds a way to bounce back. So here's what the bamboo tree is known for. It has the ability to bend, but it will not break. And so he said, life is like that. Yeah, that sometimes in life you're going to experience some storms. Yeah, sometimes life is going to hit you with some things that you didn't anticipate. Yeah, sometimes when you're going through life that you're going to be working at a job where you've been working there for years, and you're thinking you have job security, and one day they may walk in there and you get told that you've got to put all your stuff into a box as security escorts you out. Your services are never needed here. And then sometimes as you're going through life, you go into the doctor for a regular checkup, and you just think it's going to be like every other checkup. And then they say, hey, it looks like we're going to have to run some additional tests. Something doesn't look right. And sometimes you're going to dedicate your life. You're going to fall in love with someone. You're going to work so hard to build this relationship, and they're going to walk in one day and they say that I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Or sometimes you're going to get to the point in your life as you look at your accomplishments, as you look at everything that you have gone through, and you analyze all the things that you wanted to do, that you were meaning to do, and you look at your life and you feel as I just haven't done enough. When those storms come in life, those winds that you didn't anticipate, those things that make you want to break, those things that make you want to quit, those things that make you want to second guess yourself, those things that make you want to curl up in the corner, those things that make you get depressed, those things that have you thinking about giving up your life, those things that make you want to give up on your goals and your dreams. When those things come, you've got to bend, but you can't break. And so here's what I say to you. That maybe right now, as you look at your life, that there's an area in your life that maybe you feel as if you're at your breaking point. That, yes, things have been difficult, and maybe you're going through the day and you're trying to act as if everything's okay. People are seeing you and saying, hey, how's everything? You're saying to them, everything is fine, but you know on the inside that things aren't fine, that you are at your breaking point right now, that you're thinking about walking away from this business, that you're thinking about walking away from your marriage, that you're thinking about if you're going to be able to beat this disease, this diagnosis you got from the doctor, that you're thinking about how your life to you right now doesn't make sense and it doesn't seem very fulfilling, and you are feeling frustrated, that you're at this breaking point. And so what I want to remind you right now is you were designed just like the bamboo tree. You were designed to bend, but not break. That you can handle this. That you've got to remember the words of Winston Churchill. He said, when you're going through hell, keep going. That this thing that you're going through is just a momentary setback. Willie Jolly said that a setback is a setup for a comeback. That this thing that you're going through right now is just a temporary breakdown. John Maxwell said that every breakdown prepares you for a breakthrough. And understand that this thing that you're experiencing right now, it hasn't come to stay, it's come to pass. And so you, just like the bamboo tree, regardless of what's going on in the circumstances, regardless of how devastating the winds of life are, that you were designed to bend, but not break. Yeah. And so I think about a couple of years ago, I was sitting in church, and there was a really, really, really large audience at this particular church, a couple of thousand people. And they were introducing a guest speaker. And after the pastor introduced the guest speaker walked out on the stage. And as soon as he walked out on the stage, it was like total silence in the room. All of a sudden, people who were slouching in their chairs, they started sitting up. And people started leaning in. And people who wore glasses that had their glasses on them, maybe they didn't have them on before, they put them on. And then once the initial devastation subsided, you started seeing people nudging each other on the side. You saw couples whispering into one another's ears. And this gentleman, when he came out, he started speaking, but you could tell that no one could focus and concentrate on what it is he was saying because of what was going on. Because when they looked at him, when they looked at his face, when they looked at everything that was going on with him, he was so disfigured. They just couldn't focus. And they're all just wondering in their minds, what has happened to this guy? How could he look like this? And at the beginning, he didn't start going into the conversation on what happened or how it happened. No. He just continued to speak. And as he was speaking, you could tell that no one was able to concentrate on what he was saying. And finally, this man, he finally got to the point in which he started to go into his story. And at that point, everybody's leaning in because they're looking at this guy who was so disfigured. This guy, as you looked at his face, you could barely make out where his nose was. As you looked at his face, you could barely make out where his mouth was. As you looked at his face, you saw layers and layers of scars. One of his hands was missing. The other hand, you just saw remnants of a hand. There was like a nub and some things that were there. And people, it was just a ridiculous shock factor. And so everybody wanted to know. They were looking at this man and said, what happened? And finally he got into his story. And he said when he was about 22 months old, his entire family was going on a trip. And they were traveling in two different cars. He said his mom, his aunt, and his 3-year-old sister were in one car. And his father, along with his uncle, and him were inside of a pickup truck. And just like a regular day, they're just on the highway. And then they got to a toll booth. And while they were waiting there at the toll booth, a massive 18-wheel truck came in and bam, hit a whole row of cars. And the car that his mom and his aunt and his 3-year-old sister were in, that they were managed to get out of the car with just a couple of scratches. Nobody was significantly hurt. But the pickup truck that him and his uncle and his father were in, that pickup truck, it caught on fire. And the pickup truck, once it caught on fire, his uncle and his father, their hair and their hands caught on fire, and instinctively they jumped out of the truck. But here's the mistake. The father thought that the uncle took him out of the car, and the uncle thought that the father took him out of the car. And so they're outside and they're trying to put the fire out of their hair and the fire out of their hands, and what they're failing to realize is that he is still in the car. He's burning alive. And it just so happened that there's another gentleman who was in the wreck who's running around and trying to check if everybody's okay. That he hears a little baby crying, and he decides to just reach in, and he reaches in and he pulls this baby out. And he said when his mom walked over, she couldn't even recognize him. When she described him, she said, it just looked like burnt ashes that were inside of a baby seat. And immediately they rushed him to the hospital. And when he got there, they said he probably only has about a 10% chance of survival. And so as a baby, he went through countless surgeries. And so as he stood there on the stage, and all of us who were leaning in, who were looking at him, what we were looking at was that somebody who has already had over 50 surgeries. What we're looking at is somebody who has gone through all their life, every single day, experiencing physical pain from all the scars, physical pain from not having any hands, physical pain every single day from all the skin grafts, all the surgeries, all the tightening of the skin, physical pain from all the physical therapy, and somebody who's gone all their life going through the emotional pain of everywhere that he goes, people staring at him, the emotional pain of children running up to him and saying, Mom, I just saw a monster, the emotional pain of sitting down at a restaurant and eating and people who are sitting next to him so disgusted, who don't have the ability to look at him, asking for their check because they had to leave because they didn't want to look at him, the emotional pain of people staring at him and constantly, instead of asking what happened, looking at him like he's some kind of animal. That this is a man that every single day of his life, he's had to remind himself, I got to bend, but not break. And so here he is, standing in front of an audience of a couple thousand people. And it's not something he's just done once. No, he's done this many times. He gets on flights. He goes from state to state. He goes all over the country, getting in front of audiences where most people who are in his situation, they would have broke. Most people who are in his situation don't want to leave the house. Most people who are in his situation pray that they would die every day. That most people who are in his situation are depressed, that they believe that their life has no meaning. That most people, when they're in that situation, they wake up every single day saying, why me? They break. But no, not this guy. He understands that in life, that we got a choice to either bend or break. And so here's what I say to you, that right now, as you look at your life, and as you think about this thing that you've been struggling with, this thing that you've been concerned about, this thing that has you at your breaking point. Will I be able to get out of this debt? Will I be able to make this business work? Will I be able to overcome this depression? Will I be able to get rid of this sickness? Will I ever accomplish my goals and my dreams? Will I be able to have this life that I desire? Will I break? And the answer is no, that you can bend. And so the first thing I want you to know is this. It's important that you write this down. That when you find yourself in that situation, that the first thing to realize is this, that it's a choice. That we have a choice, that when you find yourself, when you're at that breaking point and life has hit you with an unforeseen circumstance, that you can make a decision, you can make a choice on whether you're going to bend or break. They say when things happen to you in life, you can choose to become bitter or you can choose to become better. When you say to yourself that I am going to bend, what you are saying is I'm willing to get uncomfortable. When you say to yourself that I am going to bend, what you say is momentarily I'm going to do whatever it takes. When you say to yourself I'm going to bend, you say to yourself that I'm going to endure this situation. No matter how bad it is or how bad it gets, I am going to make it. That's a decision. And once you make that decision, here's what's important for you to know. That's not going to be easy. And if they tell you it's going to be easy, it's a lie. No. That once you decide to bend, it's not easy. It's not easy when you keep pushing forward, when you know on the inside you're second guessing yourself. It's not easy to continue to show up to a job in which you know on the inside something inside of you is saying that there's got to be more than this. It's not easy when you were living in a beautiful home and you've been foreclosed on and now you're at a relative's house sleeping on the couch and sleeping on the floor and asking people to borrow money. No, it's not easy to bend when you have been arguing with this person over and over again, and you've been begging them to change, and they don't want to change, and now you're finding yourself having to go to counseling, and you're getting on your knees and praying for them, and it seems like they've checked out, and you're the only one who still wants the relationship to work. It's not easy when you've been fighting to try to lose this weight, and every single time you lose 5 pounds, you gain back 10. It's not easy when you've been fighting for your goals and your dreams. You've been doing everything that you were told to do, and then when you look up and you get up, you still don't see the results. It's not easy to bend. No. It's going to be difficult. Yeah, it gets uncomfortable. Yeah, we don't always want to bend. It's one of those things that life sometimes forces you to do. But we don't always want to do it. And so the first thing is we've got to make the choice as we look at this situation that instead of breaking, that we're going to bend. And then we have to acknowledge and realize that it's going to be work, that we're going to have to be outside of our comfort zone, that maybe perhaps we're going to have to do some things that we don't want to do. Somebody said that you have to be willing to do the things today that others won't do in order to have the things tomorrow that others won't have. T. Harv Eker said, if you're willing to do what is hard right now, then life will eventually become easy. But the only thing that you want to do is do what's easy, like breaking, then eventually life will become hard. And so finally, not only do you have to first make and acknowledge the fact that you have a choice. The second thing, acknowledge the fact that it's going to be difficult and it's going to require some work. It's going to require you getting uncomfortable. Finally, you've got to realize this, and here's what I say to you, that it's worth it. Yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it for you to get uncomfortable now momentarily so that eventually you can get this business to where you want it to be. It's worth it so that you can sacrifice right now so later on in life you can have some financial security. It's worth it for you to fight for your relationship, for you to fight for this marriage so that you can keep your marriage and keep your vows and keep this family together. That it's worth it as you look at your goals and your dreams, this thing that you know that you've been wanting to do, that you've been meaning to do, that you've been putting off and that you've been intending to do. It's worth it for you to bend right now so you can make this thing happen. Yeah. It's worth it to fight for your dreams. It's worth it because you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. It's worth it because tough times don't last. Tough people do. It's worth it because you can handle this. And so I want to remind you of that bamboo tree. That no matter how devastating the storm is, no matter what it is that life throws at the bamboo tree, that it'll find a way to bend, but it will not break. And so all of us, and if you're on this line, I'm talking to you, that whatever it is that you're facing right now, whatever this thing is that you feel like you're at your breaking point, what I want to remind you is this: bend, don't break. This has been Andy Henriquez reminding you to always show up for your life. Because if you don't, ladies and gentlemen, no one else will.